Hi dancers, it's Kirsten. Welcome to the Confident Dancer YouTube channel. Today it is my honor to present to you a conversation that I had the honor of having with Sasha de Sola, who is a principal dancer with the San Francisco Ballet, which is, by the way, one of my favorite companies in the whole world. And small side note, this was such a full circle, beautiful moment for me personally, because I remember when I got to go to the San Francisco Ballet School summer intensives. That was such a mouthful. Many years ago, I got to watch her dance while I was upstairs watching the company dance through the doorway, and I remember admiring her dancing so much. And on top of that, she's a lovely human being. She was so generous to spend her day off with me, sharing insights with me and all of you about how to handle the pressures of a professional career, how to be mindful of your happiness and your well-being as a person while also being in this very high pressure environment, especially being a principal dancer. She knows a thing or two about managing stress and expectations and working hard, but also being happy. So I was so delighted by the wisdom she shared in this conversation, and I know it will be really impactful for you. So do listen to the whole thing. And if you don't know about Sasha, which you really should. And by the way, I will link her Instagram account and her website below so you can learn more about her, more in depth. But a little bit of her biography is that she's been a principal dancer with SFB for the last 5 years and has been in the company since she was 17 years old. So she's had a long career in the company, worked her way up, and she's also the collaborator on a jewelry line in San Francisco, which benefits one of her favorite charities, in addition to being a co-author and creator of a children's book, which is bilingual. So she has lots of interesting things about her from her ballet career and just in her life as a person. You should really go check her out. And without further ado, please do enjoy this conversation. Hello, Sasha. What an honor to have
Hi,
you on the channel. Thank you for being here.
thank you so much for having me. I love what you do and I love how you support dancers on their journey, young dancers, older dancers. I love it. So I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. That's so kind. Well, as we've already talked about and I've shared a bit in the intro, I'm really excited to have a conversation with you, one of the top professional ballet dancers in the world, about both having excellence as a ballet dancer and well-being and happiness in your career. These are things that, amidst the pressures of a professional dancer's life, it seems very hard to balance. And you seem like a person who knows a thing or two about maintaining your personal happiness, your authenticity, and things like this amidst the challenges of your career. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you more about how you find well being and happiness with all the things that you do as a principal dancer. So let's just start with what do you think is important about really valuing happiness and well being in your career as a dancer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I've noticed throughout my life and throughout my career that I am able to do my best work when I've taken care of my well-being and my happiness first and foremost. First and foremost. Um, it's inevitable. We're human, right? So it's inevitable to get frustrated or to
Yeah.
feel upset or let down or whatever you might be feeling, experiencing some negative emotions. Those are normal and just as important as these positive emotions. But I've noticed that the more I'm able to kind of um, focus on the bigger picture, which for me is, even though this sounds cheesy, but is remembering that this career, the ability to dance is a gift. It's not a given, you're
Yeah.
not entitled to it, it's a gift. And to me, that allows me to maintain the perspective that I need to maintain, to really be grateful for each moment in the studio, on stage, despite the ups and downs that are inevitable in this career. So that has really helped me a lot. And has also kind of allowed me to grow not only as a dancer but as a human being, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully inspire others to try to bring the best of themselves and enjoy this career as much as they can.
Absolutely. Yes. I really appreciate that you mentioned having a bigger picture perspective and valuing gratitude as well. And I think most of all, I want to highlight what you said about the negative emotions being just as valuable and important as the positive ones, because I think it is really common to not want to obviously stay in the stress, the fear, the anxiety that we can experience in our lifestyle as dancers. We don't want to stay there, but sometimes it feels like the solution is just to be positive all the time. But you can only do that for so long before it's not healthy. So I really appreciate that you exemplified that for all the dancers watching. What are some things that you do to maintain your well being and your happiness?
I think something that's really important to me is just kind of going back to kind of who I am at the core, right? So that's spending time with
Mm-hmm.
my family, kind of centering myself with people that allow me to be me for me and are non-judgmental. Not that anybody else is, but just people that you're super comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I've always found that that really helps me whenever I feel a little bit lost or particularly stressed or anxious about something. That really helps me. And the other thing that I kind of tend to do when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed is just spending time alone in nature for me is so helpful.
Same. I do the same.
Really? Oh,
It's
I'm glad.
transformative.
It is. It is. Like, what I love about San Francisco, for example, is that it's so easy to find this incredible hike that you're just kind of like lost in the woods.
Yeah.
And, sometimes on your day off, the last thing you want to do is go on a hike, but it is so helpful to just kind of calm everything down, come back to your core self, and again, gain that perspective, which I'll probably say that multiple times throughout our conversation.
It's the
But
real
really,
deal.
yeah, it's just about having, coming back to that big picture perspective and really, learning to release things that are not in your control
Yeah.
um, and just having faith in yourself to deliver your best work and your best at any given moment, and that can look different.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. My curiosity just went to straight to the faith in yourself part because for so many dancers, they know that that's important. A lot of dance educators say you have to believe in yourself in order to make it. When no one else does, you have to believe. And I've made videos about how to actually do that, but everyone has their own way and their own answer. And so for you, how have you cultivated that faith in yourself?
Mhm. It's a good question that
I
I'm
know
not
it's hard
sure.
and it's probably it's a long answer, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll be able to answer it super well or concisely, but I'll do my best. um I think, just being perfectly honest, I have always had a strong sense of self, like from when I
Mhm.
was a baby. um and that is something that I'm aware that I was kind of that is innate within me. That doesn't mean that I haven't struggled with lack of confidence or fear of not being good enough or not having what it takes to achieve my dreams.
Yeah,
We all struggle with those things. And I think one of the biggest things that helped me in my career was realizing that I am in control of my destiny as much as it doesn't seem like I am. So it's about those steps. So for me, it was, really focusing in on my work. Like really, instead of thinking about the way that ballet can serve me, I started switching my mindset to how can I best serve the art form, right? So
yeah,
how can I be my best self so that the art is better? And so that means coming to class every single day and working, mindfully and giving all that I have at any given moment to it. Um, and just basically, after putting in that work day after day after day, it gave me the confidence to feel strong in my abilities and what I have to offer, basically. So even though I didn't always feel that you know, I didn't do my very best work every single day, or I wasn't the best one in the class or the company or whatever, but I know that I put in the work, the energy, and I had the mindset of taking each baby step to get me closer to what my goals were.
Hmm. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. It sounds like you're focusing on what you can do
Mm-hmm.
instead of maybe thinking about the future, which is not now, so it's inherently outside of your control. That outcome is out there versus what's the next baby step. I love to say, what is the next best thing? The next stair step in front of you. Focus on that and focusing on not only what you can do, but I also love that you said focusing on essentially how you can provide value
Mm-hmm.
to the art form. I'm sure you thought about it in terms of how you can further your company or the repertoire. And when you have a mindset or a purpose that extends beyond the vague idea of, I need to do my best, for
Mm-hmm.
what?
Mm-hmm.
If it's for something bigger, it's so much more motivating.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it allowing dancers to approach their art in a more selfless way,
Mm-hmm.
while
Well,
also at the same time bolstering your sense of self. It's very interesting.
in a way, it's, it sounds selfless, but in a way, it's kind of selfish because it also gives you so much back, right? When you think about it in kind of the grander scheme, so whether it's your community of dancers in your company, in your school, um, how you give to your community and to your art, it returns tenfold,
It does.
and that's not the intention of giving your best, obviously, but it's just a really positive cherry on top that
Yeah.
it needs to do that. So
It's
it's
the
really,
principle of generosity.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. It does return to you, absolutely. And for dancers watching, I also really like to emphasize that it's more than the value I provide is my technique or a flawless performance. I'm sure for many, it's the energy that they bring to the studio, how collaborative they are, the attitude that you have, the artistry, the interpretation you bring into the piece that brings the choreographer's vision to life, which could be more meaningful for the audience. Like you could just keep thinking of so much more beyond the technique because I know that so many dancers, a lot of the stress and fear comes from, is my technique good enough? Can I do this technically? Maybe not for you. I'm not sure, but that's
Oh,
what I experienced.
of course, no. Technique is kind of this imperative thing that we have to have, but
Yeah.
it's really just a tool to make our performance and our experience as dancers as fulfilling as possible, emotionally, psychologically, collectively.
Hmm.
And so it's just a tool, really. And so that's the reason technique is important. It's because it allows us to kind of expand beyond then, oh, the tendu and the high retiré and the five pirouettes. Like that is just a tool to get to the important thing, which is the heart, right? The
Yeah.
heart of ballet and the heart of why we do this and why we share this with people and why the art form is important.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, I totally agree with you. It's the heart, and the technique is a tool, not the end. The means, not the end. It's one of the means, even. Um, so, I'd also love to ask about the challenges that you experience in your career and how you um, how you interact with them or overcome them to overall have a fulfilling experience as a dancer. So, what are some of the challenging aspects of your job?
Mm-hmm. Well, we all know ballet is challenging and just kind of, you can't escape that. And that is for me, once I embrace those challenges, once I kind of stop trying to avoid them and just embrace them as part of my growth journey, I feel that I was able to better overcome them and better accept them into my life. I don't know if I've overcome all of them, right? There's still many to come, I'm sure. But uh, So for example, let's say injury, or let's say a disappointment in casting, or let's say whatever it might be. Um, all of those things, in my experience, have caused me to kind of question myself, my worth. Do I have what it takes? Can I overcome this? Is this really something that I'll get through? Do I want to get through it, right? Do I want to continue putting myself through these challenges? And um, for me, time and time again, that questioning has been so important to my growth when I look back. You know, in the moment, I wish I wasn't going through it, because no one likes to
Yeah.
go through those things. But at the same time, I'm sure anyone would say that those are the moments where you really have the most explosive growth, right? So when I had an injury and I questioned, can I ever dance again? Do I even want to try again? Just because it's so hard to get back to,
So hard.
yeah, to what we were, and hopefully continue growing. Um, when you question yourself like that, and you come to an answer for yourself, and purely for yourself from within yourself, there's nothing more motivating, because you're no longer doing it for your teacher or to make X person proud, or right. It's all an internal motivation, and the motivation is to do your best work because you love to do your best work, and that's
Yeah.
it. There's nothing else. It's very simple, and when it becomes that simple, it's easy to give to it, and it's easy to kind of find um, that kind of drive and willpower to keep pushing through.
Yeah. That's so beautiful because, yes, the psychological principle of intrinsic motivation is one that tends to be more sustainable. We know that. Yet it is very difficult. It is a difficult process, certainly not impossible. I believe every dancer has it within them to get to a place of intrinsic motivation, even within our system, which is designed for extrinsic motivation. Everyone shows up for class at the same time. You have one teacher yelling at you, you have expectations and you have a crowd that you're accountable to. It is so easy to succumb to that. But when, like you showed by example, you use the challenges as a growth opportunity, you gave it a purpose. And
Mhm.
that is so important. Even Viktor Frankl talks about that in Man's Search for Meaning in his work. I find it really impactful. He talks about how people overcome incredible trials because they find a sense of meaning and purpose in the action of going through the trial. And when you find that for yourself, it becomes not only possible to overcome it, but there is a benefit that you can see, almost a light at the end of the tunnel that, like you said, motivates you forward. And yeah, I love that you shared that's where you found that sense of intrinsic motivation. It's finding the answers for yourself and asking those questions. So amazing that dancers get to see that a dancer like you goes through this.
Yeah, and also remembering that there is that light at the end of the tunnel, as you mentioned, even when you can't see it, even when it's not even faint, there is that light. And having that faith can be super hard when you don't see that light, right? Of course, that's normal. And it's about, again, like taking those steps, step by step, day by day, moment by moment, and really giving your best of that moment, which might look different every single day, but
Mm-hmm.
every day you give your best, whatever that looks like. And I really believe that that leads people to their highest selves, and their most motivated selves.
Yes. Hey dancers, I hope you're really enjoying the video so far. I just wanted to briefly talk to you about the Confident Dancer Coaching Program so that you know this resource is available to you and any other dancer you know who is tired of mental struggles like comparison, self-doubt, insecurities, imposter syndrome, performance anxiety, all of these mental struggles that are so common for us dancers, especially those of us at the pre-professional to early professional level. We know it's common, but for those of you who are struggling and are tired tired of struggling, you want to be a confident dancer, you want to trust yourself, you want to know what you have to offer, you want to feel good about your skill set, and you want to have the mindset that will equip you to feel your best and dance your best and accomplish your career goals, y'all, that is what this program is about. That is why I designed it, and it is designed specifically with dancers' desires, needs, and goals in mind, so that you have support from a professional who's not only qualified as a coach and as a trainer of neurolinguistic programming, but also with someone who has a background as a professional ballet dancer and who understands what you're going through, who understands what you want, so you don't have to explain yourself. You feel understood and supported by a professional who knows how to help you get to where you want to go. That is the support I provide in this program. So if you are interested or you know someone who is, all you have to do is click the link down below to visit kirstenkemp.com, learn more about this program, everything that it includes, how it works, read amazing testimonials from past clients, and schedule a free 30-minute consultation where you and I will have the chance to get to know each other, talk about your goals, your challenges, and see if the Confident Dancer Coaching Program would be the perfect fit to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. So I can't wait to meet with some of you. Again, apply for that free consultation. It's no strings attached. See if it's going to work for you, and go ahead and apply now because spots are limited each month to only 5 dancers. So apply now. Can't wait to talk to you, and let's get on with the rest of the video. I'm very curious about how you define for yourself your best. So for example, like if you go through a whole day and you look back on it and you said, I did my best today, how do you know you did your best?
It's mostly just my mindset of the way that I worked. Generally, I can more easily tell you when I know I didn't do my best.
Oh,
So
same. Yeah.
like that would be when I allowed things to get under my skin that didn't really matter. That basically I let little things affect me more than I wish they would have, right? Those days I'm like, oh, I could have done better today, and those are the days actually that remind me to release those things the next day, right? And to do my
Yeah.
best the next day. So it is important to kind of quote unquote fail. I hate this word fail because
Yeah.
yeah, but it is important to go through those days where you feel you didn't do your best because it reminds you what your best looks like, right? Or
Yeah.
what your ideal best might look like. And so just
Absolutely.
having that vision and that goal and striving for that is, if you know what that looks like, it's easier to exemplify it.
Yes. Yeah. If you have a picture in your head or a sense or values to live by that is for you, like this is my best self, it's a lot easier and actually possible to know if you did your best for the day versus so many of us say, I want to do my best, but have you ever like sat down and thought about what that is? Because by default, if the answer is not making mistakes, well, I'd be a failure every single day.
We all would be, every single one of us. Yeah.
Every day, and it would be terrible. So yeah, I think dancers can use this video as inspiration to just sit down tonight, journal, what does it look like to be my best today? And so then you can actually have the answer for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I love in one of your recent Instagram posts, you had written a caption about performing being a spiritual release for you, and I found that so interesting. And I'd love to hear, what does that mean for you and how do you tap into it?
Yeah. Well, this is one of the hardest things to kind of put into words, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I still struggle to kind of share what it is that I feel, just because it's such a strong sensation that I really, one day I'll get there. I'll find
I
the
have
right.
things like that too. I don't know how to
I
describe
don't
it.
know.
I feel it.
Yeah. But I think, to answer the question, I kind of have to go back a bit to when I was a kid. And when I was little, I was so painfully shy, to the point that I was diagnosed with selective mutism when I was little.
Wow.
I was very, very shy and dealt with a lot of social anxiety, and dance was my therapy, like plain and simple. It just completely changed my life once I started dancing. And I remember the feeling of going on stage for the first time when I was 3, but somehow I remember that. And I, and obviously as time went on, I continued to feel so free. Like I never felt, I was the least restricted I had ever been on stage, which generally I think is sometimes the opposite for some people, because there's pressure and there's lights and things. But for me, it was, I felt the most myself. I felt the most free. I felt the most kind of in the moment. And so, of course, I got kind of addicted to that feeling. And that's really what has been like a main driving factor in my life as a dancer is being able to go on stage and share this kind of the most authentic version of myself with other people in a non-verbal way. And it has been just so deeply life-changing for me and impactful that my only hope as a dancer is that I hope it I reach people on a deep level as well, right? Like I don't want them to only see my technique or this or that, but I want them to feel what it is that I'm doing, and hopefully bring joy if it's joy, or bring some sense of emotion and depth to their life as well, because that's kind of the joy of this art form, is sharing it. And so to go back to the original point of the spiritual release, that's my best attempt at trying to explain what that means to me. is
Yeah.
is it's something so deep, and I feel um it's like being connected to the collective, this
Hmm.
collective energy.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. That's why I think I feel like the luckiest person in the world that I get to do this every single
Yes.
day. And um I yeah, I just can't believe that I actually get to do it. So yeah, it's a gift. I'm grateful.
That actually makes a lot of sense, Sasha. For such an ephemeral idea and experience, you put it into words beautifully. Because, yes, anything that is spiritual, it doesn't have to mean religious. I think when we take the word spiritual for objectively what it's talking about, it's a sensory experience. It's something beyond the physical. It's felt. It's an idea that somehow exists outside of time, but you're experiencing it now. And so that's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to put into words, and that is actually what's wonderful about it, because um, yeah, you're right. The experiences we have of um, going out there and sharing rather than proving. It's such a radical idea for dancers, and I'm sure if anyone watching just goes into their next rehearsal, even or performance, with the intention to share, like you do, of what's on the inside, what are you feeling, sharing an experience you're having. I talk about that all the time versus proving, worrying that one mistake will ruin the whole performance. People aren't there to to count, keep a score of how you're doing. They're there to feel something. And you're right, it's such a beautiful collective experience. Even when I got to go to Mexico City a few years ago and watch the Ballet Folklorico, and I will just spontaneously burst into tears when I feel like there is pure emotion being shared on the stage. There was just like 30 men on the stage stomping, and I started crying. It's that.
Yeah, exactly. That is like the perfect example of that, like collective energy that's so powerful, right?
It
And
is.
at its best, it really brings everyone into this energy, and like brings out these emotions that maybe are unexpected, but they're beautiful, because that is
Yeah.
what it is to be human, right? It is experiencing all these things. And so how special is that? I don't know. I find it
So
amazing.
special. Yes, and it makes me curious about what if we all started to ask ourselves the question at the beginning of each day when you're just going into class? It's like, oh, I just have to warm up my body and whatever, or get through the day. What if we asked ourselves the question, how can I bring that collective sense of experience and freedom that I might feel on stage, or just complete presence? How can I bring that into my classwork or my rehearsal today versus focusing on the countless other things that we could focus about, which are also valid, but maybe they don't provide that same emotional payoff that is the entire point of the art form.
Exactly, exactly. And like what you put your energy into, what you put your focus into is what will be returned to you, right? So if you're focusing in on all of these things that maybe make you anxious or make you nervous, or make you feel less than, um, you might be consumed with those things. So focusing your energy on what you want to give and receive back is also another way to kind of make your everyday, whether it's class, rehearsal, kind of your everyday schedule, feel more fulfilling. Because
Yeah.
really, I think, I spoke about performance, but really this can be applied to class, which I do apply it to class. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
there are some days I go into class and I'm so tired
Yeah.
and I really would rather just like sleep and stay home, right? But it's when I get there, I think, okay, I'm here. I'm going to give all that I can to this. This again is something that is, I'm not entitled to it. It's a gift. And I'm going to bring my best energies to this
Yeah.
class, and it helps have a good class. Whereas if I stay in that kind of like, oh, I'm tired and I don't want to be here, I have a horrible class and the day kind of sucks. And so
Yeah.
it's just being, it just changing your mindset can make such a huge difference in your day.
Don't I know it? I completely agree. Um, so, one thing that I see robbing dancers of their happiness very frequently in my work is very rigid expectations for themselves. And this is something that can be a difficult topic because, yes, we want to do our best every day. We do have demands being placed on our performance by the artistic director and rehearsal directors and whatnot. There's a standard. Yet, like you're saying, some days you come into the studio really tired and you don't want to be there. And psychologically, the principle of going from black and white thinking of this is good, this is bad, here's my expectations for myself, and they don't budge every single day, that tends to be associated with things like anxiety, depression, high stress levels, things like that. And so, for you, how do you adapt your expectations for yourself each day in order to manage your mental state? Or do you keep your expectations for yourself very rigid and just try to figure your way out into them as best you can?
Yeah, I think you make a great point that there are these standards placed on us, whether by others or by ourselves, right? Because I place all sorts of standards on myself too. And so
Yeah.
um, that is difficult to kind of navigate this kind of balancing act that you have to have of really maintaining those high standards to the best of your ability while also maintaining your physical and mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and emotional health. So it's tough. I think, one of the things that I still struggle with is kind of forgiveness of myself when I'm not able to reach those standards that I've placed on myself. Generally, I'm probably the hardest person on myself as opposed to other people. Like, that's just something that I know I have to continue to work on, but it's also something that has helped drive me.
Yeah.
But I digress. But no. Uh, so basically, you know, allowing yourself this leeway that you are human, right? Not every day you're going to be able to deliver what you maybe normally can deliver. Maybe you're going to have a bad day, you're going to have an off day. This is normal for absolutely anyone in any field. let alone such a physical field like ballet. Um, so really forgiving yourself when you feel you didn't do your best, when you feel you weren't able to deliver how you wanted to deliver. Secondly, it's also what I've learned over the years is kind of prioritizing my energy, knowing that, okay, so, at San Francisco Ballet, we have such a crazy busy schedule that it's impossible to give 100% of your energy to 100% of your rehearsals and all of the performances. The human body will not do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, each rehearsal, I'll kind of focus in on something else. So, whether it's an intricacy of the choreography, musicality, the way I use my port de bras or my face or my eyes, or the angles that I'm going to make. So it's not necessarily dancing to my fullest every single rehearsal, right? It's being mindful in each rehearsal and making each rehearsal as effective as possible without killing myself, and that's
Yes.
where it balance comes in.
Yes.
So yeah, it's looking at, for me, what helps me is I look at my day in the morning and I think, okay, this is what I have to do today. I have class, I have these rehearsals, and I have this performance. So I need to for me, it's very important to do my class as much as possible every single day. Like that, I never skimp on. So I'm always there for that. And then, of course, rehearsals, I have to choose. Okay, this performance is coming up sooner, so I need to really give my full physical energy to this. I need to give more emotional energy to this rehearsal. I need to give more thought to the way I'm going to do the musicality in this rehearsal. And so that way, I kind of vary my energy levels and also the way that I'm using my mind in each of those rehearsals. And so I don't end at the end of the day completely devoid of
Yeah.
life, right? Like
Yes, exactly.
I've just tried to use different parts of myself throughout the
Yeah.
day, and that has helped me a lot.
That is a brilliant answer that I'm sure many are just hearing for the first time. This idea of prioritizing your energy. And I talk a lot about prioritizing your, we can just say it simply, your state. That could be mental, emotional, physical. Just a snapshot of how you're doing in the moment. Because truly, if you give all of yourself and sacrifice everything that you have in your state for some goal or expectation that you placed on yourself for this 1 hour, then you've sacrificed the integrity of the rest of the day. And chances are, then, if you don't do very well, maybe you walk into the next day feeling more insecure of, oh my goodness, the director saw that and I need to make up for it. And instead, you clearly set an intention. You know what you're deciding to value for that period of time, and you're able to, it sounds like, set reasonable expectations for yourself by knowing what you're trying to prioritize. That is such a great practical takeaway from this very difficult question that I threw at you. um, so I know we mentioned authenticity, or you did a few times. Um, and one thing that comes up in a lot of conversations I have with dancers and also just with peers that I've had, we've talked about that question of, do you have to sell your soul to do ballet? And the answer will be different for everyone. Do you have to just kind of shut up and do what you're told and be a wallflower and disregard who you are authentically to climb the ranks? And maybe for one person, the answer is yes, because it's the career just isn't actually a fit for who they are. But if we kind of take that question generally, I would love to get your insight on this. Um, how do you, well, and then there's also that, I'll add that element of playing the game as well. This
Mhm.
idea of kind of placating or again, like I said, just be quiet, do what you're told, do whatever the front of the room wants, be who they want you to be so that you could climb the ranks. So for you, since you have climbed many ranks and you are at the top here, um, do you think Or let's say there is a way. We're just going to say there's a way. How do you think dancers can be true to themselves, be authentic, and still have success?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really great question that really does not have a simple answer. To your point that
Not at all.
the answer is different for everybody because everybody's different and everybody's authentic selves are different. And as you mentioned, it is possible that, maybe your authentic self isn't the best fit for either the school or the company, or maybe even the art form in general. Like, I don't know, but um I would like to say, and I would like to believe, because I believe it happened to me, is that it is possible to stay authentic to yourself throughout your career and still be successful and happy within it. So that looks different at different stages, right? I think one of the things that can be kind of tough about this career is that we start young, where you have to start this career young. And when you're a kid or when you're a teenager, you just generally don't have that bigger picture perspective. And sometimes that's when it can feel like, oh, well, I have to be this person or play this game to get further in the career. And, you know, I don't know. I always believe in the value of hard work. Like at the end of the day, um, the goal is to put on the best quality product for you and for the whoever is leading the company, right? It is to put on the best quality product as possible. And so if you deliver as best as possible, you can't fight against what is good. And I believe that the more you kind of are able to kind of switch the mindset of like, oh, what are they thinking? Let me try to be what I
Yeah.
think that they think they want. Just the more you are confident within yourself and what you are delivering, the more people have confidence in you in return. It's a
That's what
two-way
I've been
street.
saying. That's what I've been
Yeah. But it's so true. It's so true. And I remember, when I was younger, I felt that I just responded to the energy that was being given to me, right? Like
saying.
there's the energy in the front of the room and I just have to respond to it, until I realized, no, we're all in this room together and I can bring positive energy. People want to work with people that
Yeah.
want to work, want to be there, are happy to be there, are willing to collaborate, are willing to work collectively and in unison. And that all plays into the way the energy of the room affects people. And so I I remember realizing that when I got a little bit older, and it was something that really changed the way I experienced being a dancer. I didn't feel like a pawn as much, and I felt more like a collaborator in the art form, which is way more fulfilling than just being a pawn, right?
It
Um,
is.
and then the last thing that I'll say is I remember one time somebody gave me some great advice, and I was a young dancer at the time, and I was working on things that I had to work on, right? Like things that were not my forte that I had to improve. And I remember he came to me and he said, "Well, why don't you work on your pirouettes?" And I was like, "Oh, well, because pirouettes are easy for me, and I don't need to work on those as much as I need to work on this." And he said, "But why not? Because that is your signature, right? Like nobody is good at absolutely everything, but people have signatures." And at the time, I thought, I don't know, I still need to do all these things. Like this is bad and this is not so good and this, right? But then I kind of took his advice and I started working on things that came naturally to me. So the way my upper body moved, or my pirouettes, or like certain aspects of my musicality. And then I realized, now looking back, those are things that kind of are signatures of my dancing. And it's because I spent the time and the energy to kind of cultivate those things at that time. They've become so much more instinctual now. And if I had only focused on all of my flaws, all of those positive things that came naturally to me in my dancing back then probably wouldn't be as strong or wouldn't feel as instinctual now. So
My
I
heart
always,
is so full listening to this. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Please keep going.
no,
So
no, it
good.
just, I thought that that piece of advice really kind of changed the trajectory of the way
Yeah.
my career went, or at least the way I perceived my career going. and and that I think is so special, and I will always be grateful for that because it really did make a difference for me.
Wow. Again, I was saying my heart is so full hearing you say these things because this is what I also found to be true. And I stopped dancing professionally 4 years ago. Obviously, I was nowhere near where you are at all, but I started to just become obsessed with observing people who, like you, seem to have this ease about them and this success, but it seemed to be coming from a place that they discovered on the inside. And I just observed, what is it about them? How are they thinking? What are they doing differently? What's the mentality behind that experience? And I was even coaching a dancer last week and sharing with her about that principle of she felt pressure. And I asked, if you were to put something out yourself, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a total shift.
Yep.
And also, there's a whole exercise I take dancers through of discovering their authentic strengths. And it doesn't have to be, I identify my strengths as the things that I excel above everyone else. You could still be the absolute worst one in the whole class, technically, but compared to the other things you do, identifying what are the things that come naturally, what do you like to do, what have you gotten compliments on, and how can you cultivate more of that to become a signature, then you actually have something to show
Mm-hmm.
because we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for something that's interesting as audience members or people who are in the artistic staff. So, wow. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. I won't even ask the question of what are some things you've learned throughout your career because you've shared so much of it already that I think it would take a year to implement all of it. So, thank you so much for your wisdom and your heart. I'm so thankful for this conversation.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, thank you for, you know, being so thoughtful about the questions that you bring forward, and also for sharing that with the next generation. I think back to when I was young, and these resources were few and far between, so
Yeah,
it's amazing how I don't know, that we've like created this community that we support each other in. I think it's beautiful. So thank you for doing that.
it is. Oh, thank you, Sasha. Now, I did say I wasn't going to ask you another question. I am thinking of all the little dancers who are watching. Little, a lot of them are actually adults. If there was one piece of encouragement that you had for them, or it doesn't have to be one, I don't like to put pressure on it. It doesn't have to be the best. What is some encouragement that comes to mind for them?
I think one of the things that's the most important thing is to remember why you dance. And that answer can look different for everyone. But um, sometimes, in the midst of it all, it can be easy to kind of lose track of that core motivator, like that first thing that made you think, oh, I want to start classes. I want to start taking ballet classes or dance classes. And um, it's always remembering that no matter how far you go, it's being connected to that initial reason why you dance is what will not only like keep you centered and remind you of why you're doing it, obviously, but will also allow you to build this community of like-minded people, which is, I think, one of the best parts about being a dancer is like having this community of people that love what they do, which is what you do, and love this thing so much. And it's having this shared experience allows you to kind of connect with people in a really beautiful way that is less possible in other areas. So
It
it's
is.
Yeah, I think just remembering that, and remembering that you're there to share that with other people, really helps ground at least me, when I'm, feeling a little bit lost.
I completely agree. As an extrovert, I share the same source of happiness from ballet. It's connection with other people for me.
It's great. I mean, that's part of the beauty. That's like one of the biggest parts of the beauty of it. So.
It is, yes, and I got to connect with you. What a pleasure.
Okay.
So, thank you again, Sasha. I'm so looking forward to posting this conversation and sharing it with other dancers. Um, and I hope to stay connected.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks everyone for watching. I will stop recording.